And so that was my first lesson of you're not going to get anything if you don't ask for it.
Don't feel like you have to have everything buttoned down before you go for it.
You are around people who are not pouring into your cup, you're not going to be able to pour into other people either.
Men apply when they have 60% of qualifications, whereas women apply when they are feeling like 100%.
And we're back right on time. And I am already surrounded by the wonderful speakers of our next panel discussion dedicated to women in sales. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a chance to take a break, stretch your legs, get some coffee. You're full of energy and you're once again ready with your questions. We are looking forward to those in the comments. Please don't forget. Hi, ladies. Hi, everyone. I am really happy to be here with each of you. Thank you for joining. It's an honor for me to be surrounded by such great women leaders, and I really hope to learn a lot from you today. I thought we would start with a quick round of introductions. I will let you introduce yourselves with what you think would be relevant for today.
I can go first. Hey, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, or GB. I am an SDR manager here at Airtable. So super excited for this panel and can't wait to hear from everyone else.
Well, thank you.
All right, so I'll go next. My name is Katrina Kurt, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Linkedist. And I'm excited to also share my experience being a woman in sales.
Fantastic. I will go next. My name is Olivia Nielsen. I'm calling from Chili Piper, and currently I am the Senior Director of our Global Sales Development team. Very eager for this chat today, and thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. And we have Catherine. Maybe Catherine has issues with internet, but we'll let her rejoin in a second. And then we'll do the introduction as well if she does and when she does. Okay, perfect. I do have my first question for you already, and this is about your path to leadership. So what did your path to leadership look like? What helped you succeed? What helped you get to where you are today? Gabrielle, I think we can keep the same order if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I had started off as an SDR, so going outbound back in 2015. I was part of a group of SDRs. We were kind of like the pioneering crew in a satellite office in Chicago for a San Francisco-based startup. So I got to see like what did it take to actually build something like a sales development program from the ground up, like what worked, what didn't. And I was a top performing BDR, SDR along the way. And was very, very curious about like, all right, how do I up level myself? But also how do I share that out to other people and kind of help them become more confident and competent in the role? And a couple companies later, I was in a position where they were hiring for an SDR manager. And so at the time I had actually made a point to try and meet the VP of sales who was brand new to the company. And I was like, hey, listen, whenever you need something, I'm your girl. Like I was like, I don't know that I knew anything, but I knew that I wanted to be the person that he could tap on the shoulder and say like, hey, I need to move this thing forward. So when they published the role for an SDR manager, I just sent him a message and I was like, hey, listen, like I know that you have some big things ahead of you and I want to see how can I help. So by the way, like here's my repertoire, like here's all the things that I've accomplished, by the way. But yeah, I really just asked the question, how can I help? I presented my business plan as well. And so then I was hired immediately. And so I've been managing for the past 5 years. Like it's been since 2017 since that happened. So it really started off with like one, like I want to be really good at what I'm doing. Secondly is like I want people around me to be really great as well. And I want to figure out how can I learn and improve. And then from there, it was raising my hand and saying, who else can I help at a higher level where I can take on more responsibility and help in a much wider way.
Thank you. So the first step was about being proactive, putting yourself out there and actually stating that this is my intention. This is what I can do. I'm ready to be of help, right? Yes, indeed. Thank you. Catherine, welcome back. I think I would prefer you go next with a quick intro, and then if you can go ahead with the question, that would be perfect as well.
Hi, everybody. My name's Catherine Andruha. I have been running global sales development teams, for now over 15 years. So I guess a little bit older and wiser is the way I like to put it nowadays. Back in the day, I used to really focus highly on metrics. And I would say probably in like the last 5 years or so, through the pandemic, really focusing on change management as well as, the cultural aspect of a team and how to bring people along through your leadership style, I think is really important. Very similar to GB, I guess you could say, there was a role that had posted back in the day, I would say like 2011. And I went up to my boss and I said, hey, how come I'm not in the interview cycle? And he said, well, you didn't tell me you wanted to be a part of this. And so that was my first lesson of, you're not going to get anything if you don't ask for it. So I guess I am very excited and I'm passionate, but at the same time, I'm also a little bit shy when it comes to myself. But I've learned through the years to ask and you shall receive. And sometimes you don't want to hear what you're going to get, but it's better to know versus living in the dark, I guess.
Indeed, thank you. So once again, you have to state what you want, state that you're ready for it. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Should I go next then? Yeah, so my story started actually not in sales, but in marketing. And some years ago, I think it was like 8 or 9 years ago, I started looking more into sales enablement because, of course, the sales enablement works together with marketing and sales. We started creating some different programs for sales enablement at this IT company that I worked at in Denmark. And then later on, I had an idea, of course, of starting my own business. I tried once before, that one failed, and then I tried again after 5 years. And so I started Linkidist, which I'm running right now. And of course, when you start your business, you have to do sales. I mean, there's no other way, right? So, and at the same time, also, not at the same time, but beforehand, I also finished a sales master's at Copenhagen Business School, which was like one of the only masters in sales that they had in Europe. And so naturally, after that, I wanted to kind of apply a lot of things that I've learned and started Linkidist and then tried to figure out, how to get those clients, like how to get Lego to work for you, to sign you, how to sign IKEA and things like that, right? Those big sharks, those big companies. And that's how my path kind of turned towards sales. And what really helped me to succeed was determination, I think, like really not giving up and trying and again and again and again.
Thank you. We're proud of you where you are today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I guess that leaves me. It's funny thinking about sales journey and how far that we've come. And when I look at the journey of it's so short thus far. But it really sparked in my journey into leadership, really transitioned when I found myself finding more of my bucket filled within helping others. And that's really when I came to conclusion, this seems to be something that could be a path for me that could actually help the company and help myself. But it wasn't until like the rest of the women are saying that I actually stated it and actually went to the senior leadership and said, this is something that I want to do and I want to explore. And this is why. And thankfully, I had very strong women leadership to say, go for it. But I will say it wasn't without hesitation, right? There were definitely times where there were positions available and I saw so many other individuals, men applying for the roles. And I sat back and tried to make everything perfect. Well, that one thing I really just don't hit. Maybe I should wait till the next round. And so now that I've progressed and gone further in my journey, it's not about that anymore. It's about going for it. So if I could talk to past Olivia back in the day, I would have said, don't be hesitant. Don't feel like you have to have everything buttoned down before you go for it. And that's something that I take with me now.
Indeed, thank you. Thank you. That was a great examples. And I do have so many follow-up questions that I want to ask, but we're going to go kind of one by one so that I do not forget anything. So we talked about things like being determined, kind of being more maybe kind of letting go of the things that we hesitate about, but like overcoming those and still going for a leadership position. But were there any specific challenges maybe that you faced on your way that you'd like to mention about so that maybe others know what can happen and how we can work with that?
I mean,
the sales is a tough role indeed. Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
No, go ahead, Kat. It's all you.
I mean, I would say that the journey is always filled with challenges. I don't think that there's a day that goes by where I'm like, wow, today was super easy. I would say probably one of the hardest things, and this is something that I work with my executive coach on, is, as a female leader, we could say things the exact same way as a male leader. We can send the email the exact same way. And, we're deemed a different set of adjectives, I guess you could say. So overcoming that. And I was recently told, just keep saying it with a smile, because if you say it any other way, it's going to come off differently. And it's true. And it's almost 2023. And we are still trying to overcome this challenge of just being able to send an email. And I will say, one of the hardest things is actually working with women. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I've had many encounters with, female leaders that I've worked with that were under me that still had issues with how, to hold each other accountable. But I would say overall, we don't do a good job of looking out for each other in the universe. And it's really unfortunate. And I really do think if more women came together to support each other, it would be a lot easier, and we wouldn't have to discuss the challenges to success. We could instead, celebrate the success versus the challenges around it.
I love that.
No, great points. I'd say for like challenges to succeeding, I feel like one of the biggest things that I had to do away with, and I didn't do it soon enough, was any kind of doubt or insecurity, or acting on it, right? So for example, I remember my first time being a manager, and I was sitting with a VP of sales, and I just remember telling him, I was like, honestly, I look around at everyone who is in a leadership position, and I just was like, look at all the ways that they are merited and they're credited, and like, who am I to think that I could be, a successful manager? And I just think there are enough people out there in the world who will try and discredit you. Like, you just don't need to do their job. So one of the most important things that you can do is like, look at all the ways that you do deserve credit and the ways that you do deserve recognition. And I think that's like, that to me is a daily practice that I do now. And I find myself becoming more and more at ease, like both with myself, like as a woman in a predominantly male space, as a Black woman in a predominantly white space, as a leader as well. And at times, like more than I think people would expect me to be. And just taking that time just to go like, hey, like, look at all the things that you've done. Look at all the ways that you've, persisted is probably the best way to put it. Look at all the people's lives that you've impacted. Like, you're a great person. Like, why would you not? Like, why not you? So I think that's like one big piece. I think also secondly, and this is maybe a little bit a response to Kat's answer, is being very, very mindful of your environment. I'm really big into saying that not every place, not every space, and not every person is going to be supportive of me. I know that, right? So being very, very discerning and being very, very selective in the places that you put yourself in, right? Both for the people that you surround yourself with for your friend group, the same thing for your professional group, right? We spend so much of our lives in this work that we're doing. And I would imagine that like anybody who's here on this panel, as well as in this group here, is like really curious about how they can be better people for the people around them. That takes a lot of emotional effort and work and labor. So if you are around people who are not pouring into your cup, you're not going to be able to pour into other people either. So like for you to be the leader that you want to be, you also have to be very, very mindful of who you surround yourself with. So those are the two big pieces, is like encourage yourself and then put yourself around encouraging people.
I can quickly add here as well that we're still missing role models. Like, in all of the organizations where I worked at, I missed having some role models of females who would be in sales positions, who I could look up to. That was one thing. And then another thing, something that I recently read in one of the surveys here in Europe, was that actually men apply for a role when they have 60% of qualifications, whereas women apply when they are feeling like 100% ready and when they feel like they meet 100% of all of the qualifications and requirements that they need to have. So these are just statistics here. So yeah.
I think part of, and it kind of goes along with what the Westler women are saying as well, is the self-limiting thoughts that we give ourselves. And oftentimes within my journey, it's been myself holding myself back and the fear to talk about it with other powerful women. I think oftentimes I would look at individuals and say, oh my gosh, you've done so much. How are you not insecure? I'm insecure. Now I'm insecure about my insecurity, right? And it becomes this self-limiting belief system. And it wasn't until I started joining communities and talking to other women, especially higher women in leadership roles, that this is not exclusive to me. This is just a natural state that we live in. But once I started getting those thoughts out of my head, letting them live there for a second, oh, you might not be good enough, might not be smart enough. Mom, hold on, I am good, and I've earned my right at the table. So I'm going to put that aside. But then having the ability to speak with other women about it and hear their experiences and how they got themselves out of their own way has been really beneficial. So to your points too, mentorship is huge, but then advocacy within your own internal company, having somebody else that can sit in the room, right? When a skill set that you have is mentioned, saying, aha, I have a woman for the job, right? And they're there to be an advocate for you. So getting out of your own way and finding people within your circle that can be your advocates has been really helpful for me.
Thank you so much for sharing your examples. So definitely we can first start working on kind of our own perception, our own mindset, believing into that we can do, looking for support within your team, within your company, right? Somebody who can advocate for you, right? As Olivia said. Indeed. And it's kind of out there, like in terms of challenges, right? We're talking about our own, right? Because this is something that we know. And maybe Catherine touched up on it a bit, that do you think that these challenges are different for men these days when it comes to women, when you apply or compete for a leadership position?
I don't know if they're different. I just think they approach them differently. And that's where I think a little bit of what everybody has said on this call is we doubt ourselves. I don't think men doubt themselves as much, but they probably do, but maybe it doesn't hinder their abilities to apply. I don't think we have as many advocates for each other. I don't think we get invited into the room to have conversations. We have to do a lot of our own proactive overcoming situations rather than having someone overcome them for us. And I would say, that men tend to help each other out more than women help each other out. And that helps them succeed faster. It helps them climb the ladder and overcome challenges. So I would say that they're same, but we just approach them differently.
I've got one thought on this as well. So I have a coach, and she had me run through like an assessment, and it was all about like your feminine leadership archetype. And she has a podcast. I'll send it out to everyone, but she has a podcast, and it was talking about like the feminine energy, not just like women, right? But also men who would be considered beta, right? Versus alpha. Like companies were not built to support the feminine. Like we have to just like recognize this. So this piece around women have to do different stuff because the pathways that are laid out there, the traditional ones, were not built for us to succeed. So that's like one big thing that like everybody has to recognize. We might not agree with it, but I do think that the sooner that we accept it, the more for women and men, like everyone who wants to create more inclusive and equitable environments, like the more that they realize that there are like things that people can get tripped up on that not everybody is always going to be aware of, or that not everybody's going to trip up on, like the more pathways that we can actually create, we'll actually have a clear understanding of what those blockers are. So that's the first part. The second thing that this is like the funny story that I tell myself is like, I would see people who just happen to be men get into positions that they were wildly unqualified for. And I was just like, how did they get this job? And when I started to actually answer that question for myself, not from a judgmental way, what I saw is that there were people who happened to be men who walked into a room and said, I'm the best person for the job. And people believed them. So I said, well, I'm going to try it out. I go into interviews and I go, I'm the best person for the job and you're not going to find anybody better. And people go, okay, cool. And I get an offer. So I would also just say to the self-limiting belief, right? Like if you doubt yourself, right? You're like, okay, well, what if you are the best person for the job? like own it, embody that, right? And like somebody, not every single person in the world, but somebody's going to see that and is going to give you the spot that you deserve. It's not that they're going to give you a chance, they're going to give you the spot that you deserve. So I just say, like, sometimes we just have to like learn from the people who are being successful in these ways and adapt that into our own, and then also like let go of the things that would hold us back from pursuing a path that other people have been successful in pursuing.
Yes, thank you indeed. I think I wanted to also ask a bit about, because we talked about the like support from the community, to support from other women who are going through the same thing. Do you have any examples of that? Yes, where we can look for support or community for women leaders?
I'd say ask. I think similar to many women on this conversation, right, is we want to help. Asking for it in any way, shape, or form, any type of community event that you can be invited to just meet other individuals, take advantage of that. I think past me also thought I only could learn from women that were in these really high roles. No, I think I've learned more from the women that are right at my same level with my same struggles, and us figuring out solutions guided by other individuals to help us get to those solutions. But honestly, anywhere and everywhere that you can connect with an individual, you should, because there's no way that there's not everyone on this call that can offer something to help one of our journeys and one of our careers. Never turn down a moment.
I can only second that. You can try to find a lot of different communities, like in Denmark, because that's where I was located at. We have Female Invest. We have various female communities where you can actually meet up and talk about marketing or sales or anything else. So you can try to find these communities and connect with other females. Then also you can look within the organization, right? Like try to find some other females who are maybe feeling in the same way. And most of the times we all feel very similar. So that's one way to, find somebody who can help you out or inspire you. And then thirdly, you can also go on LinkedIn. That's what I have done many times, and basically just, find women who are in a place where you want to be in some years, and then connect with them, meet them, ask them for a coffee, and, talk with them and ask how did they get there, and just hear their stories.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Okay, perfect. I think we have some, personally what I wanted to ask, because we talked a little bit about it when I think Olivia mentioned, or maybe somebody else saying about like, pick me for the role. I want to help, like, right? This is what kind of leader I want to be. This is what I want to do being in that position. That's why I wanted to ask you about if women have something different, or like maybe if women bring anything different when they are in a leadership position. Do you see that happening? And what would that be? What would make a woman leader different from a man leader?
Yeah. Ooh, it's a great question. Because I'm like, how do I answer this? But I don't want to give a polarizing answer, because I don't think we need to polarize. I would say this, like, I'll talk from my own personal experience, right? Like, I am a woman, I'm a Black woman. There's not a lot of people like me in this environment. And I think about the experiences that I've had, which have not always been great, but there have been some amazing ones. And I've had a lot of lessons learned along the way. And I look at my team, where at one point earlier in the year, I had predominantly men on my team. And I'm like, I look at these folks and I think to myself, these are the future leaders. And not just in terms of leaders of performance, but I mean leaders of culture. These are going to be the folks in the future who are going to be the ones to decide who gets an opportunity and who gets passed over. And I have an amazing opportunity here to share with them a perspective that maybe no one else will be able to provide them, right? And this is what is going to make them the best cultural leaders in the future, right? This will make them the best leaders of the future, and they will be leading the best organizations. So I think of it as like, my interpretation of leadership is infused by my own experiences, both good and bad, and sharing that perspective with folks so that they're able to see the world in a way, in a similar way that I see the world and experience the world. So that when they have a woman or a person of color or whomever it is right? They're able to see like, wow, they're not going to have the same experience as me. So I'm going to get really curious about how I can be a better mentor, a better leader, right? A better manager to these folks. So like, I think like that to me, like the perspective that I have based off my experiences as a Black woman is like, that is something they might not get from anybody else. And I think that's my unique differentiator, but like, that's like the impact that I feel like I get to make for generations to come in sales.
So impactful. So good. Oh, like, oh, inspiring. Oh, so great. Yeah, it's interesting, the different approaches to sales and for leadership. It's like the inherent strengths of a leader, right? Those are going to be, they're men, women, such whatever it might be. Those are going to be naturally the same for everyone. But I think it's where we use our strengths, right? And so when I think about the approaches to leadership, women tend to be more patient. We tend to be more emotionally aware. We tend to think about problem solving and solution collaborating. So when I think about leadership positions, when you got to manage your business and you got to manage the people, you want somebody in there that's going to take it down a notch, think it through, be more collaborative and more solution oriented. That's how women apply their strengths differently than potentially a man would in those situations. So if I think about, naturally leadership, we all have the same strengths that we need, but it's kind of like, how do we approach those and what strengths do we bring to the table in those times? And women, we just have an innate nature about us to be more empathetic, to think about greater solutions. And that is something so strong that a lot of tables don't have right now. So I think the difference is in the way that we approach it.
Yes, indeed. I also was, even when preparing for this discussion, I was really trying to stay away, from these topics, us versus them. That's not what I was going for. I wanted to see what exactly we can bring to the table that could be a great skill. And thank you for sharing that, Olivia, right? Being more sensitive, being listening, being supportive, right? This is something that maybe women do better, that are better at, but that's what we can contribute to leadership. And then this can be a universal trait, right, for leadership that can be used by everyone. Mm. Yes, indeed. Catherine Cortina.
It's interesting because I'd like to believe that everything that everybody is saying is like, yes, everyone's going to appreciate our sensitivity and our leadership. And I'm going to kind of blow it up a little bit here because it's like not the real world. You know what I mean? Like I love to go in and I'm patient and, I'll take 3 hours to respond to an email because if I respond right away, I come off aggressive or, maybe I take some moments just to sit back. And I'd like to, kind of turn the table around and say, hey, what else do you need us to do that's so different from what men do? That will make us have that seat at the table and for people to listen to us. And granted, there's some wonderful female leaders out there that have that innate ability to do that. And what I try to do is I take everyone's best practices and I try to emanate them in those particular rooms, in those meetings to see what works for me. What is easy for me to say? What's easy for me to do? Is it just smiling and being a little bit more quiet and just listening to everybody at the table and coming in? And what the number one approach that I have learned that has made me more successful in meetings is instead of wanting everyone to hear my voice, I focus on what that meeting is going to be for tomorrow. And I sit back and I take 5 minutes. That's all you need to do. 5 minutes to think about that meeting and understand the one point that I want people to listen to in that meeting. And so now when I go into a meeting, I'm very prepared and I walk in and I'll say a couple things here and there. And it's not because I don't want my voice heard. It's because I want my one point heard that I want to resonate across that meeting so people can walk away and say, you know what, that's the difference between this leader and this leader. Kat's thinking strategically about this. Kat's thinking about the whole business. She wants to see the entire company succeed, not just her department. And so I come in now with one point. And I think that's different sometimes between men and women. Men like to have their voices heard a lot. They like to be, and this is just my experience on who I've worked with. So not everybody's like this. I don't want to pass judgment, but if I can just come in and have that one point, everybody will remember my one point versus the little chitter chatter that's happening across the table. And maybe it's something actionable that somebody else can take away, but it's kind of what I've learned is to try different best practices. And this one seems to be the best practice that works for me.
Like that. Everyone kind of touched and talked a little bit about, men and women having different approaches to leadership. Maybe I can comment a little bit about different approaches to sales, because there are still a lot of differences when it comes to that. And what I've experienced, for instance, in UK, like a lot of people after work, they go to the pubs, and it's pretty normal to like go to a pub, close down some deals, make some deals happen, and kind of that's how we do sales. In that environment, you still have to kind of play by the rules of the game, right? So you have to adapt yourself, basically go to the pubs or go to those poker nights or go to those other like men clubs. And, we don't always like, know what to do there and how to act. And of course, it's just, it's a completely different way of making sales. I would not like try to sell something by going to a pub. That's not my style, but that's a style that from my personal experience, a lot of male colleagues that I've met throughout different organizations, they apply and it works. So how do we act here? Maybe that's also a question to others.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's really hard because a lot of women in sales and a lot of women in leadership are also mothers. They're girlfriends, they are partners in life. There's a lot of other things on our plate. And I think that changes how we approach our jobs as well. We can't always go to the pub after, right? So it's a little bit different. We have to make concessions in our life to be really, really successful, unfortunately. Whether it's going to school, whether it's helping or volunteering even, we are in a different boat than men are in their careers at times, and we're juggling a lot more. And so I think that plays into how we can maneuver a little bit more through our careers. But I think it also is sometimes what hinders us from applying for those other roles is we might not have the time capacity to take on higher roles, or that's why we doubt what we can do. It's a conundrum of being a VP versus a senior director, or being a president versus being a CEO or a CMO, right? It's really hard to put yourselves, because something's going to have to give, right? If you've got other obligations too in your life, which is hard for women to have to make concessions.
Indeed, I'm so sorry to have to kind of stop at this point because we're out of time. I promise next year we will definitely set aside at least 20 more minutes for this, because this really needs more discussion here. But thank you, all of you, for such great insights. Thank you for bringing your experience and your leadership advice to the table. We have made some notes to remember things to use and to do to succeed and strive. And I think the most important that I'm personally going to take out today, or take away with me today, is that looking for that community, sometimes even proactively looking for it. It's not going to come looking for me, that community of women leaders, or just also community of people who support me to be a leader, and then draw from that to succeed. Yes. Thank you so much for your time. And I really hope that we will see you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.